Hi everyone, I wanted to record this mini micro lecture on the neuromuscular junction to help you understand one of the more complicated concepts that we have in our muscular system chapter. It's fairly complicated, but I know that seeing it will help you understand it a little bit better. So I'm first just going to start by talking about the different types of muscle tissue. So we have three different types of muscular tissue in our body. We have skeletal muscle, which you can see here, we use it in our muscles to move, jump, run. We also have cardiac muscle, so the muscle that's found in our heart. And then we also have smooth muscle. Smooth muscle is found in our vessels, such as our veins and arteries, and then also found in our digestive tract. It also is found in the uterus. Muscle is very excitable. That's one of the properties of it, meaning that the nervous system is actually responsible for the contraction and a lot of the function of the muscular system. And so what I want to kind of go into today is just specifically in skeletal muscle to talk about the neuromuscular junction and how that affects the sliding filament theory with actin and myosin to allow our skeletal muscles to contract, so shorten or relax or lengthen. So here's just a quick picture of a whole muscle essentially, and then they pulled out a fascicle, so a bundle of these muscle fibers, and then within each muscle fiber there's all these little tiny packages of essentially myofibrils and tiny little sarcomeres that are inside there. And so just to remind you, this is essentially a fascicle. So the meat that we see is essentially one of these. So just a bundle of those muscle fibers. And so if we pull out, so here's one of those big fascicles. If we pull out a single muscle fiber, within inside it, you get these little tiny myofibrils, and they're composed of sarcomeres, which are the regions that we see here that essentially shorten or lengthen to create skeletal muscle contraction. And here's a picture of a sarcomere. And so you probably know from the text that the sarcomeres are made up of different types of proteins. So there's thin filament and thick filament, and then some other proteins that essentially anchor these sarcomeres together. And so I have some better pictures coming up. So there's a sarcomere. That entire unit is what causes the contraction in a skeletal muscle. This is just a histology slide, which is pretty cool. So this is an actual muscle tissue, so a pathology slide, and you can see the different colors and where they line up are the different sarcomeres. So you can see Z line, and then a sarcomere here, a sarcomere here, a sarcomere here. And there's just a better picture. It's kind of zoomed in. And so within these sarcomeres, you have the thick filament, which is made up of myosin, and the thin filament, which is made up of actin. So there's the picture of actin. And here's a picture of myosin. And with help from the neuromuscular junction, these filaments essentially slide against one another, kind of in opposition, to shorten and create a muscle contraction. What's interesting, just to correlate a little bit of clinical pathology, is you have this protein called dystrophin that connects the sarcolemmas to the surrounding connective tissue. So it kind of keeps the sarcomeres anchored. If there is a mutation within this protein, that's what causes muscular dystrophy. And so patients with this, their skeletal muscles are unable to contract appropriately, and they end up needing physical therapy, help walking, et cetera, et cetera. So here's just kind of another picture. I wanted to just zoom in even more. So we're really going to be focusing now on the neuromuscular junction. So what that consists of is this motor neuron coming in and all these little synaptic vesicles. I'm going to show you a video that essentially release acetylcholine into this space, and the acetylcholine travels through this space, binds to these receptors, which then causes this entire muscle cell to have an action potential or a depolarization, which then allows the sliding filament theory to work. And so I'm just going to click on this. We'll see if this works. Perfect. Let's open this.
One of the main ways that I like to use Grammarly is to take the stress out of responding to emails. And I used to
Welcome to 2-Minute Neuroscience, where I simplistically explain neuroscience topics in 2 minutes or less.
So here's this video.
In this installment, I will discuss the neuromuscular junction. The term neuromuscular junction refers to the synapse between a motor neuron and a skeletal muscle fiber. Activity at the neuromuscular junction is essential for the contraction of skeletal muscle to occur, and even just to keep muscles from atrophying. It is also the site where synaptic transmission was first studied, and thus is the best understood example of chemical signaling in the nervous system. When a motor neuron approaches a muscle, it branches out into several extensions that end in areas called synaptic boutons.
And I call those synaptic vesicles.
These synaptic boutons are situated over a specialized region of muscle called the end plate. The synaptic boutons are separated from the end plate by a space called the synaptic cleft. The end plate beneath each synaptic bouton contains several deep indentations called junctional folds. These junctional folds contain high numbers of ligand-gated ion channel receptors for the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. When an action potential travels down the motor neuron, it causes the release of acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. Acetylcholine binds to acetylcholine receptors in the junctional folds of the muscle membrane, which causes ion channels to open to allow positive sodium ions to flow into the postsynaptic cell. This produces a depolarization of that cell, called an excitatory postsynaptic potential, also known as the end plate potential when it occurs at the neuromuscular junction. This depolarization leads to the opening of voltage-gated sodium channels, which causes the end plate potential to lead to an action potential. This action potential travels along the muscle fiber and causes contraction of the muscle. The enzyme acetylcholinesterase is also present at the neuromuscular junction. It breaks down acetylcholine and in the process terminates its effects on the muscle fiber, thus ending the communication between the motor neuron and the muscle fiber.
Okay, so that I think is a really good representation of what happens at the neuromuscular junction. Let's get out of there and go back to our slideshow. And so essentially that calcium, so we have the acetylcholine traveling across the synaptic cleft, it binds to the receptors, and then because of that, an action potential occurs. Once that action potential travels across the muscle cell, it causes the release of calcium, which then essentially starts the sliding filament theory of those sarcomeres to essentially kind of slide past, the filaments to slide past one another and cause a muscle contraction. So just a couple of really cool clinical points. So Botox or botulinum toxin in a severe form blocks the release of that acetylcholine from the motor neuron. And so in essence, you can't have a muscle contraction, and so it paralyzes the skeletal muscle. Similarly, the poison curare, which is seen in a lot of the arrows and like the blow darts, historically used to poison enemies or in war, that blocks the acetylcholine receptors. So it literally binds to the ligand-gated channels and blocks them on the motor end plate. So again, skeletal muscle cannot contract and it causes skeletal paralysis and death. So the big muscle that this really affects is the diaphragm. It essentially paralyzes the diaphragm, which leads to respiratory suppression and death. And then finally, you also have nerve gas. So nerve gas works a little bit differently in that it inhibits acetylcholinesterase, which is the enzyme that breaks down that acetylcholine, causing the muscle contraction to stop. So if you don't stop the muscle contraction, the muscle keeps contracting and it ends up spasming and causing tetany. And so that ultimately also will lead to paralysis and death because the muscle can't continue to function. This is also commonly what's used in pesticides. So I hope that helped to explain the neuromuscular junction. This is just a picture I wanted to end with. Again, this is skeletal muscle, dark meat versus light meat. You have different types of muscle fibers, so slow twitch versus fast twitch, which we can talk about in another session.